Right.
But if you look at, like, let's say the 1900s, like the turn of the last century, right?
Yeah.
Or 2 centuries ago now.
Yeah.
And the life expectancy was like in the 50s. And you look at it now, we're pushing 80 in some countries.
Right.
82 in like Japan, I believe. And I think it's 79 here for men. That's like numbers coming down a little bit, fueled by COVID and the opioid epidemic and overdoses, accidents, that kind of stuff.
Craziness.
But we dramatically increased our lifespan over a very short period of time. So now people are living longer. And so the decisions that you make, let's say when you're 20 and 30, have a much more ramifications than they did in 1901.
So, yeah, man, I want to chronicle it so that when I'm older, I won't forget it. And then, so we were talking earlier and I wanted to find out, cause you were saying, here's what I was thinking too. I was like, okay, by the way, I grew up with this guy. We've known each other since we were 7th grade. And, I was like, we had a bunch of same interests the same interests. And then while we went off to college, you just kept going, man. You just you got your pharmacist degree, you got your MD, you got your MBA,
Yep.
Right? And then we're talking downstairs and you're like, oh, and I'm on the board at Parker, which is awesome too. So yeah, what was, so how did it work out with getting on the board at Parker? How'd that work out?
Yeah, so when the pandemic first happened, I made a post on LinkedIn and I called it the Forgotten Pandemic. And it was how we had glossed over the fact that we had an obesity crisis. Half adults in America are hypertensive, 25% have abnormal lipids. You start looking at metabolic health, only about 3% of Americans are actually metabolically healthy.
3?
Yeah.
Wow.
3 to 7, depending on what metric you use, right, and how exactly you're defining that.
Right.
But the majority of Americans are sick and diseased. So we know that in infectious disease, the host's health matters.
Right.
So we know from flu and now even data on COVID and all this other stuff that if you have these conditions, your risk of getting sick and your risk of severe illness are increased.
Right.
So I've been post about that.
Right.
And it went viral on LinkedIn, 250,000 views. And one of them was the president of Parker University. And he reached out to me. I sent him some video of me speaking. About a year on their speaking circuit, he asked me if I wanted to join the board of trustees. And I said, sure, why not? This is an awesome experience.
Okay, so first he saw a few videos of you speaking. You were giving some speeches, and then after you'd been doing that for a while, then they asked you to join the board. Mm-hmm. That's right. Hey, bring that. Do this little test. Bring that closer to you, and then make yourself comfy. That's the kind of like the distance you want. There you go. That's perfect. That's great, man. So and how many are on the board there?
13.
13. Wow.
Yeah. I'll tell you a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
So this has happened this past weekend when I was here for Parker NeuroCon. So our head speaker was Ben Carson.
Nice.
And some people know this, some people don't. The reason I became a physician was because my mom, who you know very well, who is a very interesting character, gave me a copy of Gifted Hands to read. And when I read it, I said, I could do this. It gave me a dream. And I got to meet him, shake his hand, and tell him he's the reason I became a physician.
Really?
Yeah.
What year did she give you that book, or roughly?
I think I was 9 or 10, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in grade school and even then, like your biology, the sciences, but specifically biology, like you were really into it for sure. Yeah,
anatomy and that anatomy class and physics were my 2 favorite classes in high school.
Yeah. So that's really cool, man. I didn't know that. So what are you doing on the board now? Like, what's like your day-to-day activities as far as like how much of that is taking up your time?
Yeah, it's not too much time, which is great. So we meet about once a quarter, and we're just talking about high-level governance. So we're not into the operations, day-to-day stuff. It's more about strategy, mission. Our job is to make sure we get the right president involved, and the president handles all that other stuff. And it's been really good because the university's doing really well. It's one of the fastest growing universities in the country.
It's one of the best chiropractic colleges in the country too, right?
It is.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
Of course, I'm going to say we're the best.
Well,
right?
yeah, I know, but my brother-in-law JB, he went there. I mean, chiropractic is huge in this area. I don't know how big it is across the country, but like, you see chiropractic in like, in Flower Mound and, suburban areas too, where there's like, houses and, families and stuff like that. There's chiropractic clinics everywhere. And I can guarantee you that 9 out of 10 of those people probably came out from Parker, so it's like one of the biggest colleges for sure.
Yeah, it's been a great experience. And, we're a lot alike in our philosophy on health and life in general, which is probably why, you're one of like 5 people from high school I still talk to regularly.
Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of people, you grow in different ways.
For sure.
Byron, I don't talk to him anymore. Chris, a lot of the guys that I hung around, right?
Yeah.
But we always kept in touch, even though we didn't really see each other all the time, but we would still reach out and see each other when we could.
Yeah.
But I don't get along with a whole lot of other doctors because I'm not a pill first guy.
Yeah.
And I'm more of a, let the body try and heal itself, put the body in a position to heal itself. And that's the mantra of chiropractic. And that's why I get along so well with chiropractors. Plus I lift. So I understand how important, muscular architecture and skeletal alignment and all that stuff is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. A big part of what my brother-in-law tries to do is, it's rehabilitating, but also doing preventative stuff to help you build stronger so you don't injure yourself. And, the physical aspects of chiropractic can be directly correlated to the physical aspects of health, internal health, from what you put in your body from a food perspective. So it's the same idea. It's like doing anything to expand your longevity so that you're not, so that you don't, die young, or have these chronic illnesses, which you mentioned. It's funny how it seems like the chronic illnesses seem like they're such a new thing in the scope of like, and again, recorded history, how much data do we have, back in the past? Maybe we just have more recorded data today, but it seems that like all types of chronic illness and just disease itself is and much higher than before, right? Much higher than it was 50 years ago for sure. And, you can attribute that to diet largely, but, lifestyle, including diet, that's part of it. But what do you think are like the core things that have caused like this epidemic, this chronic epidemic?
Yeah, it's really, really complex, which is why one solution is not going to fix all of it.
Right.
But if you look at, like, let's say the 1900s, like the turn of the last century, right?
Yeah.
Or 2 centuries ago now.
Yeah.
And the life expectancy was like in the 50s. And you look at it now, we're pushing 80 in some countries.
Right.
82 in like Japan, I believe. And I think it's 79 here for men. That's like numbers coming down a little bit, fueled by COVID and the opioid epidemic and overdoses, accidents, that kind of stuff.
Craziness.
But we dramatically increased our lifespan over a very short period of time. So now people are living longer. And so the decisions that you make, let's say when you're 20 and 30, have a much more ramifications than they did in 1901.
Right.
Because you just probably weren't going to live as long.
Right. It was more, but maybe I'm wrong, but the death rate was lower, partially due to like acute diseases, more so than chronic, right?
It was infections, right? Number one thing, like penicillin changed the world, for sure, because now all of a sudden we had a way to treat bacterial infections where before it was mainly hope, prayer, maggots, and honey. Right?
Good old leech therapy.
So funny you bring that up. We actually still use leeches. When I was a pharmacist at MD Anderson,
really,
we had a vat of medical leeches.
Oh, get out of here.
And so I remember having to feed the leeches, which was just funny because you fed them like this salt solution that basically mimicked blood. And we'd use it for skin grafts. Because what the leeches do is they secrete something that was actually made into and purified into an anticoagulant. So you put the leeches around the skin graft, the blood doesn't clot, so more blood flow goes to the graft.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Yep.
That's really cool. Well, that's different than the other bleeding that they used to do.
Right. Completely different.
That's really cool. So go ahead. So what are the contributing factors, would you say, for the chronic disease?
Yeah, if you look at what I call the big five, right, of health or lifestyle medicine, it's mindset, nutrition, exercise, stress management, and sleep. Those are the big 5 bang for your buck.
Yeah.
And just to look at the numbers individually, we know nutrition wise, 65%, 60% of the average adult food in America is ultra processed foods.
Yeah.
That's what they get their calories from. It's 65% in kids. High intake of ultra processed food has been linked to, all the bad stuff. Peter Attia calls them the 4 horsemen: cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, strokes, heart attacks, right? And then you look at
Well, so real quick, how much of that do you think is due to the chemicals in the food itself versus their hyper palatability, that makes people overeat and overconsume and just eat too much? You know what I mean? I guess it's hard to quantify, but it's if the Oreo diet, you
Right.
eat, you can, if you stay at your caloric maintenance or in a deficit at the in Oreos, eventually you'll become deficient. Let's say hypothetically you've got a vitamin supplement and you're taking that, we can't really quantify it, I guess. I don't know if we can, but
yeah, most of it is probably due to overconsumption of calories. Right. Now, if you're eating a lot of your food from ultra processed food, it's not as nutritious. Right. That bag of Oreos just doesn't have the nutrient quality or amount that an apple does. Right. So it's nutrient amount and nutrient quality. They both matter. Yeah. But what seems to matter more is don't overconsume food. Right. And we live in a very consumerist economy. Right. So people are just inundated with calories. They're everywhere. People eat for numerous reasons, not just for sustenance. Right. So that's the number one thing I think is driving is the foods that we eat are part of that. And you go back to the big 5, right? We talk about mindset. Most people have a crappy mindset. Yeah. They're woe is me. Blame everybody. Right. Somebody's coming to the government's supposed to do this. No agency. Right.
Personal accountability. Right.
There's no accountability anymore. Yeah. We blame everybody for everything except ourselves. Right. The successful people I know, who's the first person they blame?
Themselves. Yeah.
Themselves.
Yeah. It's a mindset for sure.
Yep.
And I think the big driver of that side though is also stress, right? The big factor would be just the stress factor that gets built up in the body and then it causes shortening of telomeres supposedly. I think as you age, I don't know if stress has been linked to the shortening of telomere. It has. Yeah. So which basically affects how your DNA gets rebuilt and then after that you just age weird, you get cancer, right?
Yeah, so telomere stuff is pretty interesting. Yeah. So not all shortening is bad, not all lengthening is good. Oh, really?
Good. Okay.
Yeah, so we're starting to see some interesting discrepancies in there. Let's say, for instance, you've got a cancer cell. Yeah. You don't want it to have longer telomeres and extend its lifespan, right? You want it to reach a point where the body says, no, we need to destroy that cell. Mm-hmm. So I began to look at things like that in a different light, that it's like anything. Yeah. There's nothing on this planet that 100% of it's all good. Yeah. Right? Sure. Or 100% of it's all bad. Right. Right? There's usually some nuance and some middle ground. So I've started to change my opinion on the telomeres and say that's something we just don't know enough of. But we do know pretty conclusively that oxidative stress and damaging your DNA is very bad. Right.
Yeah. And so the hope on that side is reducing stress as much as possible so that that's not a factor. And a lot of things can contribute to that, but I guess at the end of the day, it's the stress factor that can I guess that'd be, from my perspective, I guess everybody's different, right? How they handle stress, how they choose to eat, and how they choose to sleep. It's like everybody, I think to everybody, one of those factors might be a lot harder to control for one person than it is another, right? Due to psychologically how they were raised or whatever the reasons are. People who overeat might know they overconsume, or they may not even know that, a gram of fat has 9 calories. So they think, hey, I can eat this and it looks small, so it doesn't have a lot of calories. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of that is just knowledge and what you know. But I think sleep has got to be probably almost at the very top, right? I don't know, but yeah, sleep and nutrition. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want someone to feel better, like let's say I've got someone, they feel like crud.
Yeah.
What can I do to make them feel better the fastest? Get them to sleep better. Most likely is the thing that's going to make them feel better the fastest.
And what can they do to sleep better? What are some things that you think that they can do to sleep better?
Exercise, right? Exercise early in the day. What that does is it builds up metabolic byproducts, adenosine, something that most people don't know or haven't heard of, but they're all aware of. This is how caffeine works.
Yeah.
So caffeine blocks adenosine, which in your brain does something called the sleep homeostatic drive. So as we go throughout our day, our body, our cells are breaking things down, energy, breaking down other byproducts. We're making waste products, and adenosine is one of them. So it reaches a point throughout the day as the adenosine builds up, then you start to get sleepy. Right? So caffeine blocks that signal. Now, what exercise does is it kind of ramps up that increase because you're increasing your metabolism for a short period of time. Mm-hmm. So you're creating more waste products. And so exercising is, especially earlier in the day, is one of the best things that you can do to increase your sleep. Getting sunlight. Most people don't get any sun exposure.
I've just started doing that. Yeah. I've noticed a difference too. I just feel better. I feel just more in sync with the day. Mm-hmm. Just getting out in the sun. I'll do a morning meditation, just sit out in the sun, 7.5 minutes facing, 7.5 minutes on the other, just direct sunlight for about 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
It's helped a lot. And I've stopped taking vitamin D. I don't know. We'll see if it makes a difference, but yeah.
Some people don't need to take vitamin D if you get enough sun exposure.
Right.
Some people like me, I got to take 5,000 every day to maintain my levels around 50.
Right.
Even though I get about an hour of sun exposure a day walking my dog.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. And then, so anything else you can do on the sleep side besides exercise is great, and anything because quality of sleep is really important. Mm-hmm. So, you might get, and this is something that I've heard a lot recently, but I don't really know personally what I can do, aside from like sleeping in a comfortable position. But how can you optimize quality of sleep? Let's just say you're getting 8 hours every mm-hmm. day, but for some reason those 8 hours are terrible. What can you do to maximize that or optimize that?
Yeah, so one of the things you want to check to make sure you don't have sleep apnea, right?
Right.
That's very common in people these days where you stop breathing, your blood oxygen drops, and you wake up. You might not be aware of all the time you're waking up, but you wake up throughout the night. Another thing is room temperature, manipulating temperature. Yeah. So, this is especially true for women where they're sleeping with a blanket and, sweatpants and a sweater.
5 layers.
Right. Yeah. And then, wondering why they can't go to sleep because they're keeping their body too hot at night. Right. Another thing that I found was really interesting. Are you familiar with Andy Galpin? Mm-mm. He's a PhD out of Cal State Fullerton. He's kind of the guru in human performance right now. And one of the things he does with his athletes is he measures CO2 content in the room. And so we all have different CO2 thresholds. So like, let's say you hold your breath, right? What gives you that drive to breathe is not lower oxygen, it's higher CO2 levels. And everybody has a certain, like a CO2 set point that they're comfortable with. So increasing that, because as you're sleeping, your respiration rate drops your CO2 retention goes up. So being able to increase your CO2 tolerance through something like static breath holds throughout the day.
I've heard about that.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I'm not. Yeah, it's where you breathe out for a really long extended period of time. And then you hold it in when you breathe in.
Yep.
I've done who's the cold guru? The
Wim
guy.
Hof.
Yeah. So I did some of his breathing exercises, mm-hmm. and I got to like the third or fourth round. I was holding my breath for like, you take in these big in and out breaths, and then after you do that for a round of like, I think it's like 20 or 30, something like that, you hold your breath until you can't anymore. And I got up to like a minute and a half or something like that. But is that similar? Is that the same kind of technique as the one you're describing?
Pretty similar. So Andy talks about two different things. One, like let's say you take a deep breath in.
Yeah.
Then being able to like breathe out slowly over time.
Yeah.
You want to be able to reach at least 60 seconds where you can breathe out.
It's gonna be painful.
It's hard. I got to I'm at like 35 or 40 right now.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I'm working on. Another is, again, those static breath holds. So I started changing around my breathing exercises. Mm-hmm. Now I do a lot more breath holding with my breathing exercises.
And is there somebody that you look to, like if I wanted to go look up, how, some techniques for that, where would you go to get those exercises?
Yeah, Andy Galpin.
Andy Galpin.
Yeah.
Galpin. I have to check him
Yeah,
out.
he's got a book, and then he's been on podcasts. He's been on Huberman. He's been on Natia.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll check him out. Yeah, that's really cool. So
another thing is wind down, light. Manipulating light is a big thing. You want light exposure early in the day.
Yeah.
When the sun goes down, turn off the bright overhead lights.
Right.
Use floor lamps. Right. That's what we do in the house, or we keep it as minimal light as possible.
Yeah.
So we're not like stumbling or fumbling over stuff.
Does color temperature really affect it? Like, I've got these lights on hitting us right now. It's like warmer light. And, does the temperature really affect, like if it's closer to 5K, closer to the sunlight, does that really affect our wind down and how like melatonin gets produced and stuff? Or
Yeah, melatonin is super sensitive to light.
It is, okay.
So there was a paper that was written last year, I believe, that talked about how we have a darkness deficit. Most people don't experience enough darkness to reach melatonin. You think about your room, you've got lights everywhere, right? One of the things I want to do if I get a good night's sleep is just put a mask on.
Right.
One of those comfortable blackout masks.
Yeah.
That helps out a lot. But light color does matter. Blue light is more photo stimulation.
Right.
Red light may help calm things down, but it's more so the intensity of the light that matters more. So, the light like we have here, that's a very intense light. That's a high lux light.
Right.
So one of the things you can do, and our LED lights that we have overhead, they're pretty intense.
Right.
Is utilize those old floor lamps with a low wattage light.
Yeah. And it sets a good vibe too for the night,
It does.
Grab a drink, set the mood, chill out for a little bit.
You just chill out, turn off the screen at least 30 minutes before you want to go to bed. Right.
We have a TV in our room, man, and we just about a year ago we bought those adjustable beds where we can use to adjust our side. It makes watching TV in the bed like too easy because you're just like, you don't have to like tilt your head up or put a pillow up. It literally just lifts you up and then you're just staring at the screen. So I have to like figure out a way to get that TV out the room, or at least have the willpower to like not get on it like 30 minutes before bed, because it's hard, man. It's hard to like have that. See, willpower with food, me and food, like eating well and staying on that, no problem. But like the sleep thing, I've always had trouble. I've always been like a night owl, so I've always been wanting to stay up late, or even if I have nothing to do, I'm like, what can I do to occupy myself? Because I don't know why I look forward to that nighttime part, So I don't know how to juggle that.
Yeah, it's hard for people. I mean, I was a night owl for a long time. It took me a while to force myself to become a day or the early morning person.
Yeah.
It was in residency. So I remember my second year of residency, I was about to start third year. So third year or second year of medical school. Second year of medical school, I'm still in class, right? And our classes were online. So I could literally watch the class at home at 2x speed, save myself half the time.
Nice.
So it was awesome. But I knew third year, I'm heading back into the wards. I'm heading back into the hospital. I had already done that for a year in pharmacy school. And you never know when you're going to get out of the hospital.
Right.
So I was older. I knew that if I had gotten there at 6 a.m. and I get home at 6:30 p.m., the chance of me going to the gym after that, it's very low.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of willpower. I love the gym. It's still low. So I had to flip myself into a morning workout person. And I'm so glad I did, because, mornings are protected time. If you wake up earlier than everybody else, you're in 100% control of your time.
Yeah. Right.
No email, wife, kids, whatever.
Right.
Everybody else is sleeping.
Right.
I get to do whatever I want to do.
What time are you waking up?
4:45.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's early.
It's early. Yeah, it takes some time to get used to, but
it's not Mark Wahlberg 2 a.m.
Oh, that's crazy.
Did you see that? I don't know how sustainable that is, or if he even does that,
right.
like on like normal period.
Right.
The Rock's like 4 a.m. Right?
Yeah.
That's what he says. But 4:45. Yeah. Well, remember Brandon Berryhill from high school? Yeah. I see his posts on. He's training and bodybuilding, and he's up at like Yeah, same thing.
Right.
Right around that time.
Yep.
So
he's got a family, he's got a wife, he's got kids. He actually trained some friends of mine, which is kind of funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I found out he was training them, I was like, oh my God, what a full circle moment. It's like, I've known this guy for forever.
in the Woodlands, or
Yeah.
no way.
Yeah.
Friends from what? Friends from where?
So I was in this social organization called Karma.
Uh-huh.
We used to throw the Maxim parties. It was just basically a party organization.
Sounds nice. Sounds fun.
Yeah. It was single days. It was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. So what time do you go to bed?
Usually, so I'm starting to get better at this because, I have an Oura ring.
Yeah.
So I track my data. Interesting enough, I have an ApoE4 allele.
Yeah.
And, getting proper sleep is one of the best things you can do to protect yourself.
Why don't you explain a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
so ApoE4 is the strongest genetic signal we know or genetic risk factor for Alzheimer's, right? So I have one copy of it. I believe that's like a 2 or 3 times greater risk.
Okay.
And then if you have 2 copies, I think it's like 12 times greater risk, something like that.
Yeah.
Just a higher risk of developing Alzheimer's. My grandfather had Alzheimer's. So when you sleep, it's pretty interesting. This data is pretty recent. What happens is the spinal fluid around your brain literally starts cleaning your brain. It becomes like a washing machine. So where your blood pressure drops and the difference in pressure causes the spinal fluid to wash over your brain to remove waste products from the brain. And we know that people who get more sleep have less of these waste products that are associated with developing Alzheimer's, tau, amyloid plaques, that type of thing. So one of the things I've been really working on is my sleep lately, to get at least 7 hours of sleep, because my sleep efficiency is 90%. So that means, if I'm in bed for, let's just say 100 hours for easy math, I'm asleep for 90 hours of it.
Good solid sleep.
Yes,
yeah.
good solid sleep.
So the Oura Ring tracks that well.
Yes.
Are there how good are like the phones at doing that? Not well at all.
Not very.
Oura Ring's probably the best. Huh?
Oura Ring is the best tracker. Whoop is pretty decent.
Which one?
Whoop. It's the band.
Oh, okay.
But I don't like to sleep with stuff on my wrists.
Yeah.
But a ring, I mean,
yeah.
we would, we're married. We wear this ring all the time. Like most of the time, I forget it's even there.
I know. I've been wanting to take the plunge on the Oura Rings because you get is the second generation that you have.
Yeah, the third generation.
Oh, the third. Okay, the third one.
Yeah.
And so it tracks your. It tells you the quality of your sleep or when you're awake, and it's able to gauge that. That's great.
And I've been able to change my practices, so I have it down to a science. I know to get 7 hours of sleep, waking up at 4:45, I have to start my wind down routine at 8:15. And so that involves getting ready for the next day, brush my teeth, make my pre-workout shake, set out my gym clothes, read the Bible, say goodnight to my wife and the dog.
Yeah.
And then by then I'm in bed, like falling asleep by about 9 p.m. And that gets me about 7 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's like my perfect number
sleep.
too, where I feel like for me at least, if I sleep more than that, I'll wake up groggy and not feeling. I feel a little bit more disconnected. So I feel naturally for me, magic number for me is like between 7 and 7.5 hours. I remember you said that, or we were talking about red light therapy or red light. And you have a therapy kind of station at your place. I remember you sent me a picture of that. Do you save that for the morning, or do you do any of that stuff at night?
It kind of depends. I'll do it most of the time in the afternoon. And that's just because that's the best time for me to fit into my schedule.
Okay, so it doesn't matter when you do it from that perspective?
Not necessarily. I mean, some people do find that when you heat the body up, they help them sleep. So I've talked to people.
Hot showers and baths,
right?
Yeah.
Hot showers, baths, sauna work.
Yeah.
I haven't read any literature on this, but I've seen enough anecdote.
Yeah.
And I've seen my personal data when I do it.
Yeah.
Because we've got a portable infrared sauna at the house.
Nice.
When I use it, let's say like 7:15, my sleep data looks great. And the reason for that is your surface body temperature goes up.
Yeah.
So in order to counteract that homeostasis, your core temperature starts to drop.
To try to bring it down,
right?
Right.
And that's what you need for a good sleep cycle is you need your body temperature to drop.
I see. So, and I've heard that. Who's who's the guy who talks about the cold showers? Huberman. Huberman, yeah. I heard that. I think I heard that as well. And my thought when I heard that was, because it's good to sleep at like 68 degrees, right, with the low thermostat. So wouldn't sleeping, I know it's not the case, but wouldn't sleeping with a high thermostat set make your body fight to keep it cooler and therefore help you sleep better? Like if in that same regards, you know?
To a certain extent, like these reactions are pretty quick.
Okay.
Right? There's only so much your body can do to counteract.
Right. After a while, you're hot. Your core temperature will rise. So, right.
Exactly. It's going to still try to bring it down, but still your core temperature is going to rise.
Yeah.
So this is, momentary exposure, will do that. And then, it's not like I'm hopping in the sauna and then immediately showering and jumping in bed.
Yeah.
Now you could do that if you do contrast therapy, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm using a, hot sauna, cold shower.
Right.
And then I'm getting in bed.
Yeah. Cold shower. I did like a week of like cold showers, and like I'm just dreading it in my mind, trying to do it again.
Yeah.
And I know how good it is, because Huberman talks about mentally how good it is for you. And I started, so I'm on day 25 of Carnivore. Now the reasons I'm doing it is not to lose weight, although I've lost like 6 pounds, but it's not to lose weight. It's like to be more focused. And I've been, for some reason, with work and all this stuff going on, like my anxiety levels in the last 5 months, or since about April, so yeah, have gone up a lot. And it started with like some symptoms of like, I was deadlifting one day and I started to get lightheaded, and yeah, I'm deadlifting, but I'm not going super heavy. But then I'd find if I did this kind of leaning forward movement and leaning back, I would get dizzy. And I haven't been able to figure out what it was. I got an MRI, and then I ended up getting, like a few months later, getting a cold and sick. And then I have what felt like painful, swelling in my armpits, and they did an MRI there, and there was no masses or anything like that, but I could feel the tenderness there. So I had a few weird physical symptoms come up, and I wasn't getting answers. And I think that contributed to it. So I'm like, you know what, let me try this Carnivore. I've heard a lot. It's helped a lot of people with, autoimmune issues. Not that I've have experienced any, but also with depression and anxiety. So my main purpose was to help me with focus, because I did the keto thing, I did the fasting. I know that when I'm in ketosis, I'm feeling super sharp and I feel mentally great. But I also want to see what eliminating some things, specifically, some stuff in possible toxins in veggies, or whatever, just keeping it very simple, can do to make me feel. And although I feel better, I don't feel completely like a new person. And I think if somebody was like a very unhealthy eater, and they went from and they're obese, and they went from that to going carnivore, I could imagine that the difference they would feel would be like huge, right? But I was already eating really healthy. I was pretty low carb, keto. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to sustain it, too much longer. But, my thoughts are, I'm trying to think about where the hell I was going with this idea. But, yeah, I mean, we have these little bacon bites that are great. So I don't mind the diet. I feel like I could sustain it. But, I guess, we were talking when I told you I was thinking about doing that, and you'd suggested maybe doing it for a short amount of time, but not for a long period of time. And I've seen, some other doctors or people who are on, say they've been doing it for 5 years. And what are your thoughts on, keeping a diet like that sustained in the long term? And what are the potential benefits of doing that? Because we talked about earlier about mixing things up, finding a balance, and where does that like these extreme diets lie in that?
So the more extreme you get, the more you're missing out on some class of nutrients, right? You see that vegan influencer just died who did the raw fruits diet only because she got no protein, right? So carnivore specifically, I think it has a role in being used as an elimination diet.
Right.
Because if you look at the data overall for fruit and vegetable intake, the more fruit and vegetable intake goes up, the lower cardiovascular disease and diabetes, the lower body fat percentage people have. There was a meta-analysis that just came out. For every 5% for every 5 grams of fiber increase in your diet, it lowers your risk of depression and anxiety by 5%. So fiber is like one of the ultimate longevity hacks in nutrition, because the more fiber you eat, it tends to be the less calories you eat overall, because fiber is more satiating.
So it's correlate. That's more correlation, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because
you're eating less, you're full.
Most nutritional research is observational, correlation.
Yeah. Right.
Every now and then you have RCTs in research or nutrition, but they're short duration. Mm-hmm. Right. So you shouldn't extrapolate that, but that's the best that we can go on.
Right.
Right. Then you can look at prospective studies, right, that look at, okay, we've got this group of people. Let's follow them for a very long period of time and see how they eat. So when you're evaluating this evidence, you need to look at mechanistic, observational, prospective, and then randomized trials. Mm-hmm. And kind of aggregate things together based upon that. So overall, I do not think for overall health and longevity that excluding fruits and vegetables is beneficial. Now, that being said, there are people who are going to have allergies to things that are perfectly healthy.
Right.
Or intolerances. I had a client who had horrible acid reflux her entire life. This girl was healthier than I am. I mean, she did everything lifestyle-wise by the book. We figured out that it was strawberries that were the problem. She loves strawberries. Most nutrition experts worth their salt, they're not going to tell you that a strawberry is bad for you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Berries are some of the most nutritious foods out there. But she was intolerant. She took the strawberries out of her diet. Her acid reflux that she had for 20 years was gone.
Wow.
And that's the only change that we made after we identified that was likely the problem.
How long did it take when she cut it out for that reflux to not show up?
Couple weeks.
So the hard part is in that instance, like when you do that elimination diet, I've been eating only, say, beef, whatever, mm-hmm. and then let me start to reintroduce food. You've got to be pretty patient to be able to decipher, what it is that sits well with you, yep. and think about all the factors. Is my sleep the same? Is everything in my life the same? Okay, everything is the same. I haven't started any new pills. I haven't done blah blah blah. Okay, let me add in this food. And then you see how you react. It's an experiment, right?
It's hard.
Yeah.
It is hard. And you have to try to be your own scientist and control as much as you can control. Yeah. Like for me, I had irritable bowel for a long time. Now my symptoms are now very well controlled. When we were living on the same street, there were sometimes I'd go home, I'd be doubled over in pain in my room. I figured out I have a threshold of wheat I can tolerate. So, typical high school kid, what do we eat? A lot of pasta and bread and, frozen foods, tons and tons of that. So once I figured out that might be the cause, because I stopped eating bread for, just some reason for a while. I was like, my stomach feels better. Yeah. Let me try and eat this again and see if it gets worse. Mm-hmm. So a couple days eating bread every day got worse. So now I realize there's a threshold. I can eat a small amount of it and I'm okay. Yeah. But if I eat, 2 loaves, like 2 pieces of bread at a restaurant, I'm going to pay for it.
And it's, do you know what it is in the wheat itself? Yeah,
no.
Are those those are essential toxins, right? I mean, one person's toxin might not be another person's, but is that similar to like the phytotoxins or the toxins that you find in like plants, that like the defense mechanisms that plants actually have? Is it something similar that's in that?
Yeah, and even so, even the defense mechanisms can be beneficial because they're inducing a little bit of hormesis, right?
Yeah, and so the hormetic effect of like a physical external hormetic effect, like say heat manipulation or exercise, would be almost as similar as like a nutritional hormetic effect, right? I mean, I'm not sure if that's the case, but I've heard them being compared to one another as being like you can substitute one for the other, right?
Correct.
So if you if there are toxins, if you can get your hormetic effect essentially, and the idea of hormesis is still kind of very nebulous, like trying to understand like and how to quantify it, right?
Right.
If you're trying to eliminate toxins, and and again, this is just me having gone down a carnivore rabbit hole for the last few months, where I'd been advocating vegetables for a long time, and a lot of it's good to have that sway of going back and forth, where like you want to be open to changing things to see what works, but the idea of eliminating those possible toxins and still getting this hormetic effect or beneficial, say hormetic or even antioxidant effect from other factors that maybe won't have the negative toxic effects, is that plausible? Can you cut out all vegetables and just eat meat and fruit, for example, who, from my understanding, fruit are more tolerable for most people because they're meant to be consumed,
Yeah, fruit are a little bit easier to consume because they're not as tough, they're not as fibrous, right, as some of the vegetables.
Right.
They also tend to have a more beneficial antioxidant profile, meaning that, so this is a tough concept for people to understand. There's antioxidants and there's pro-oxidants. So some of the things that we consider antioxidants, what they actually do is they upregulate the body's own antioxidant defense system.
Okay.
By causing small amounts of damage, right? So some of the things we call antioxidants are actually pro-oxidants. So there are some people who are going to be more sensitive to these types of things. There are some people who, for whatever reason, their immune system is going to hate blueberries.
Right.
But they're fine eating broccoli.
Right.
Right. And so, overall, I don't like to lump everything together, like all plants, all fruits, all vegetables.
Right.
Because it can be highly variable between different people.
True.
Same thing with meat. Like you give my wife a steak, she's going to be sick.
Really?
Yes. Like she cannot tolerate steak.
Is it the fat or is it the...
I think it's just she has a little bit of a digestive enzyme deficiency. So because of the way the meat is, it's still tough.
Yeah, you need more acid.
Right. To break it down.
Right.
Whereas ground beef, she can tolerate.
I see.
Chicken, she can tolerate. But steak and even sometimes ground beef, she does not do well with.
Right.
So everybody's a little bit different in that regard.
Right.
So, you have to figure out what your body can tolerate. And unfortunately, the tests we have for this are not very good.
You just run experiments on yourself. That's all you can do. Yeah.
You try different things. You see how you feel for a couple days.
Yeah. You
change one variable at a time. And you go from there. And you really pay attention to what your body's telling you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I love blueberries. I feel great when I eat blueberries.
Me too. Blueberries, probably my top. Blueberries and blackberries.
Yeah. Top fruits. I have blueberries, blackberries, or cherries every single day.
Nice.
Right? Because I feel good when I do them. I like them. Same thing with vegetables. I feel good eating broccoli. I feel good eating asparagus. I feel good eating Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
I'm not intolerant to any of those. If you look at things like saturated fat, right? The literature on saturated fat is pretty interesting. So it's pretty heterogeneous, which means it's kind of all over the place. If you look at replacing saturated fat with polyunsaturated fats, right? So fats that are solid at room temperature versus fats that are liquid at room temperature. Easiest way to think about the distinction.
And which one's which?
So saturated fat is solid at room temperature. So it's like butter, coconut oil. Right. Meat fat.
Yeah.
Polyunsaturated is things like olive oil, avocado oil, that kind of thing.
Most of the oils.
Right. Fish oil. Yeah. Right. Those are poly or monounsaturated fats. So if you replace saturated fat with mono or polyunsaturated fat, you lower cardiovascular disease incidence. So the number of events. You don't lower mortality. And there's a lot of heterogeneity between it. So some people can eat tons of saturated fat and their LDL and ApoB does not move.
Right.
Some people increase it just a little bit and it sends their ApoB and LDL through the roof.
That's crazy, yeah.
Right? So it just shows you that we have so much different variability, and it's really hard to make a one-size-fits-all prescription when it comes to nutrition.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be customized. It's got to be, and this is another reason why I'm running this experiment myself, even though I have the desire to feel like I want to reintroduce new foods. I want to see first how well my body my body does with just the meats, and then get my blood tested. So like my goal is to try to, I'm going to 30 days. I'm going to try to push it just to give me enough time to get maybe 30 and I don't know what the right amount of time is, just as an experiment to see how my numbers are running just on carnivore, just to see. So what do you think, like time wise, is a good amount of time to wait before switching something? Like say, so I've switched. I'm on day 25 of eating nothing but meat products to after having switched to something, a drastically different diet. Should you wait to get blood work done to see the effects of that change?
Usually 90 days.
90 days.
So at least 30, ideally 90 would be what I would typically recommend if someone's made changes in their life and they want to remeasure blood work.
Right.
To see how those changes are going.
Okay. And so you mentioned, hold on, you know what? I'll edit this out. I just want to make sure these things are still filming because we're good.
Yeah, that would suck, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're still good. So, all right, we're back. So you mentioning fruit earlier. So I don't. There's some vegetables like avocado. Actually, avocado is a fruit. So there's not many vegetables that I enjoy. I can eat broccoli, but I like zucchini. It's not bad. But when I like to, we both lift weights, and I've obviously for the last 25 days of me being carnivore, I've pretty much been in ketosis the whole time, right? I'm making carbs on demand, right? Gluconeogenesis, right? But just enough to feed the body the carbs that they need. And although I feel like a little flat, like from the lack of water and stuff in my body, I've gotten stronger, which is great. I feel I've gotten stronger. I don't feel weak by any means, but I do want to reintroduce carbs, and so I've hear in the bro science and bodybuilding community, there's this big disdain for fruit, for fructose. And first tell me, is fructose as bad as it's made out to be? And I know not all fruits are created equal, but what are your thoughts on just purely like who's the meat and fruit guy? I forget the guy's name. Paul Saladino.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on just consuming carbohydrates from fruit and then meat?
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine if that's like what you want. Right. Now you're gonna miss out on some of the beneficial compounds in like cruciferous veggies, which clearly show a reduction in cancer incidence with eating cruciferous veggies.
Like such as which one?
Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, those are cruciferous veggies. Cauliflower, right?
And what how did we come to that conclusion?
It's mostly through observational data, but the effect is strong and it's consistent.
Right.
And then you look at it molecularly, sulforaphane, which is in those cruciferous veggies, is a very potent stimulator of NRF2, which is the body's major antioxidant switch. Mm-hmm. So we see it over and over again that intake of these things is associated with lower incidence of cancer. So going back to, getting most of your carbohydrates from fruit, I would rather have that than someone don't eat carbs at all. Only 10% of Americans eat enough veggies, 14% eat enough fruit. Right. So overall, any increase in fruit and veggie intake for most people is a net benefit.
And is this from a micronutrient perspective? Or
micronutrient perspective and just fiber. Again, fiber, polyphenols are very important for our microbiota, for our gut health, for increasing gut diversity.
Right.
That's pretty much, we don't know a whole lot about the microbiome.
Right.
We know a diverse microbiome is better.
Right.
When we know that fiber intake and polyphenol intake increases diversity in the microbiome.
Right.
So that's what I think is beneficial. As far as like carbohydrates goes for lifters, it's pretty clear that you do get benefit in, I think it's hypertrophy. I don't think it's strength with carbohydrate intake.
Right.
Right. And that's probably because, well, I think it is strength too. Probably because you have more energy to fuel your workout.
You wouldn't say it because of the insulin spikes from post-workout or pre-workout?
No, because, if you get enough protein will spike your insulin too.
Right.
Right. So and that doesn't have as much to do with muscle protein synthesis as getting sufficient amounts of leucine and the stimulus. Right. Which is the exercise itself. Right. So the carbohydrates probably help because in that moment you have more energy sources that you can readily tap on.
The glycogen in the muscles,
right.
Specifically, or?
Right, glycogen in the muscles, and so it's becoming pretty clear that endurance activities, you see no deficit for endurance, maybe even some benefit for being in ketosis,
right? Because
that's highly a fat oxidation. Right. Long distance endurance activities.
Right.
You do see some impairments in strength with people who are primarily ketogenic.
Now, I've thought about that because like I said, I've been doing carnivore and my strength has gone up. Now, and this kind of, you're talking about control the variables. I threw in creatine, but I'm taking a low dose. I'm taking creatine mostly for the mental benefits. So I'm only taking 2.5 grams a day, and I may up it, but so the purpose wasn't for that. And even before I started taking it, which was about a week and a half ago, I was still noticing no decrease, in fact, an increase in my strength. And I think a lot of the attribution, and I could be wrong, but the attributing loss of strength for people who are going on a ketogenic diet or who are changing their diet is caloric intake, right? And I don't know if this is true or not, so correct me if I'm wrong. But most people who switch to diets and don't track, I'm tracking my food, and I know that I'm getting enough calories to I'm either maintaining or in a slight deficit because I do want to lean out. But so I know I'm able to maintain my strength. And I think a lot of people, they undereat because they've taken out all these food groups, and so they're only able to eat this, and they don't realize how many calories they're not eating, and then therefore they get weaker. So I don't know what you think about that as far as that as a theory for that being a possibility for that reason.
I think it's very difficult because, again, this research is pretty much, we're still in an infantile state when it comes to looking at this.
Yeah.
I think the major variable there is some people are probably going to be better at generating energy from fats and ketones.
It would also take time to get your body to adapt to as well.
It will,
right?
but just like there's massive differences in the way we deal with saturated fat,
right? There's
differences in how people deal with sugar.
Right.
There's going to be differences to how people oxidize fat and utilize ketones.
Right. Just like people who are prone to diabetes because of how they upregulate or how they regulate any sugars that might come in their system or something.
Right. Some people are prone to or have genetic history of diabetes. There could be multiple aspects in that pathway that are off. Maybe their insulin receptor is a little wonky.
Right.
So, it's not as effective. Maybe their pancreas doesn't release as much, whatever. There could be something somewhere along that pathway. But we all have very, very highly variable responses to these things. And so I think that some people can do ketosis all the time and still get great gains in the gym? Yes, I was one of them. I pulled a 585-pound deadlift on a 3-day fast.
So why'd you start eating carbs?
Because I like them. I love them. I mean, like, me without blueberries or cherries for a couple of days is a miserable me.
So your main carb source is fruits.
Yeah, I love vegetables
too. But with veggies. But what I mean is, like, I guess more glycemic, higher carbohydrates rich, I guess would be the word.
Yeah, I'm pretty low glycemic stuff, right? Yeah. So sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, farro. I love farro.
Yeah. I remember you texted me about that a few weeks ago. I was like, Carla made some risotto, farro risotto, and man, I loved it.
It's so good. It's so much better than rice. Yeah, people don't know.
That texture is so good, man. Yeah.
Yes. Like, once I've had so many people switch over from rice to farro, and they're like, dude, I wish you had told me about this sooner.
Have you had farro risotto before?
No.
Oh my God. You just make it exactly like you do risotto. It takes a while, you slow cook it. You have to be stirring there the whole time, but man, it tastes it's got the creaminess of risotto, but it's got that, like you said, that bite, that chew, that rice doesn't have. That something about that texture is so good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So that, and then, you know, veggies. So I love the cruciferous veggies. I love bell peppers. You know, I pretty much eat everything except farro's pretty much the only grain I eat. And then for dairy, I just do Greek yogurt and cheese. I like cheese.
Yeah, I like Greek yogurt too. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about
eggs? I do eggs too.
I was gonna say eggs.
A lot less eggs than I used to. I kind of substituted, eggs used to be my breakfast food.
Yeah.
I substituted Greek yogurt for eggs to increase my protein intake.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what's your how many grams of carbs are you roughly taking in a day? Like say it's I don't know if you switch it up depending on if it's a heavy workout day, but how do you switch it up your carb intake?
I really don't.
Yeah.
I'm probably getting 100 grams of carbs a day.
Okay.
Which, you know, for someone who's as active as we are, that's still pretty relatively low amount of carbs.
Yeah, when you think about how much we really need, you know, if like baseline, if you really need 0, then 100 grams is actually quite abundant once your body gets used to using it. But yeah, and like you said, I think everybody tolerates carbs differently.
Right, just like everybody I mean, the most well tolerated is protein, obviously, because it's 100% necessary.
Right, we need it.
We need it, and then fats.
Yeah.
Right. Most people can tolerate most natural fats very well. Is just as far as like intolerance goes, right? People typically, unless they have an allergy to something, they typically don't get low level symptoms from fat intake,
right?
Because, you know, there are essential fats that we need for life, right? So the carbohydrates is different because there are other aspects in there that are beneficial, but we don't need. Right. And so people can be intolerant to like some people are very intolerant to oxalates. Right. They get kidney stones, you know, from oxalate intake. So it's so highly variable. You just have to experiment, find what your body feels good at, but don't just categorically exclude an entire type of food just because someone on the internet tells you it's bad. Because every food that you category of food you exclude, I can find a paper if it's a whole food showing benefit.
Yeah. That's the hard part. I think like you said earlier about diversity in the gut and so trying to explore as much food as possible so that you are able to have that diverse microbiome. And also, honestly, like when I switched to carnivore, man, my stomach was not good for the first week. It took some getting used to, man. I was in the bathroom a lot, and so I can imagine if I were to just right now just go ham on a large pizza, it would not be good, right, for me. And so I think reintroducing things slowly is important, and I think in a smart way so that like you can reintroduce and healthy, you know, good food, but reintroduce it in a way so that when your gut gets that food, it can become a more diverse microbiome. And, you know, like you said, your wife has got, you know, can't handle the meat too much. You know, as they say, or from what I've read, as you get people who go carnivore, that's a problem. Why people go to the bathroom is it takes a few days for the pH of their acids in their stomach to become more acidic to be able to handle the meat that they're eating. It's
more about pancreatic enzymes. So your body's smart, right? It's not going to make a whole bunch of stuff if it doesn't need to. Right. So you change around your enzyme composition and also what your microbiome adjusts to what you're eating, right? So if you're eating more meat, your microbiome will upregulate the bacteria that feed off of those meat byproducts, and it'll downregulate the bacteria that feed off of, you know, fruits and vegetables. So that change takes some time.
I see.
Right. So hopefully you have a healthy microbiome and it's able to adapt. People who don't have a healthy microbiome aren't. Which is why some people, when even like, let's say they're eating McDonald's every day, they go to a whole food diet and their stomach feels like crud. Just because they're not able to change and adapt as quickly. So, you know, one of the things I tell people in the situation is when you're reintroducing, it might be beneficial to just throw in some pancreatic enzymes just to help degrade that fiber that your body hasn't experienced.
So you
in a while.
you can buy these as a supplement. Okay, cool.
And then, start off with like high value stuff like berries and citrus fruits.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, what should I? Because I haven't done dairy, and so my thoughts when I get back into this, reintroducing foods, my thoughts are, what should I make the rest of the carnivore foods like dairy the next thing I reintroduce before introducing fruits? I don't know, but I don't know if it really matters. But
doesn't matter, whatever you like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna either do fruit or I was gonna do Greek yogurt because I love Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
5%. Have you had that?
Yeah.
Oh, what do you have?
I get the 0% because I put peanut butter in it.
Right. Oh man, I gotta tell you about. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Because peanut butter, like most people think of as protein, it's mostly fat.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And so it's great. I love peanut butter.
So my nighttime thing. This is exactly, you're gonna love this. You're gonna steal this. You guys are gonna steal this. 0% Greek yogurt, peanut butter. Choose how much you want depending on how get the good ratio so you can taste peanut butter, and then any type. So I use the Oikos strawberry yogurt. The 150 gram. Anything strawberry, any strawberry yogurt, but it's like low sugar. It's mixed in with that. It tastes like peanut butter and jelly. The strawberry and the peanut butter and the Greek yogurt mixed together. It's like literally like eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's so good.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's something about the 5% FIA, that extra fat that tastes so creamy. It's so good. But the Costco 0% is actually, I find, tastier than FIA's 0%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Costco's is really good. It's got a creamier texture.
Yeah.
It tastes like there's actually fat in there, but it's 0% fat. So that one's really good.
Yeah, because I add the peanut butter for the fat content, and then I throw in blueberries, cherries, a little bit of honey, right? Because I'm eating this post-workout, so I want some fast-acting carbs.
Yeah.
Right? And then cinnamon and cacao powder.
Ooh, cacao.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. A little bit of that goes a long way, though, huh?
Yeah, a little bit goes. A little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of cacao, and honey.
Yeah.
Right? It's perfectly sweet.
That's usually a post-workout?
Yeah, post-workout.
So honey, what are your thoughts? Because I've heard honey be demonized and exalted. It's like, what are your thoughts on honey from a health perspective? I know it has a lot of antihistamine-like qualities, and then I know that again, from a bodybuilding standpoint, lifting weights, it's kind of been highly debated as to whether or not it's good or not. So what are your thoughts on honey?
Yeah, I mean, humans have been eating honey since we first cracked open honeycombs and found it was delicious, right?
So good.
There are societies whose a large bulk of their calories comes from honey, and these people are lean, right? So again, it's overall calorie intake.
Yeah.
Honey has a lot of propolis, and honey has some really good immunomodulatory properties. Right.
Oh, so it's not an because I read about antihistamine type effects, but is it what's the difference between?
Yeah, so the antihistamine type effects that we think comes from the fact that the honey has some allergens in it.
Okay.
So it's exposure therapy.
Okay.
Right. So getting local honey, you're getting local pollinators. Those are going to be in the honey.
Oh, so you're getting help you with the pollen that's outside.
Right. Right. To low levels of that pollen. Now that's does it help? Probably not. I don't know. Maybe it does for some people, but I don't. I like it because it actually tastes better than that fake honey stuff that they sell.
Yeah,
like that stuff. It doesn't even look like honey.
Yeah,
and then it's all like sugary and crusty at the bottom. It's not even like real honey.
Yeah.
So I get the local stuff mostly because I like the way it tastes. Add that in. We talked about this earlier. I completely forgot about it, but fructose.
Yeah.
Right. So here's the thing about fructose. If you're not over consuming calories, fructose should not be demonized.
Right.
And if you're getting fructose from fruit, it definitely shouldn't be demonized.
Right.
Right. The problem with fructose is, one, if you're getting it from a Coca-Cola,
right,
that's liquid calories, which are much more rapidly absorbed.
Or even juice, like even orange juice, right? That's got no pulp in it.
That's got no pulp, right? So, I tell people, if you're going to juice, use vegetables, use protein powder, use collagen, use peanut butter,
right,
avocado, something.
Some fiber,
fat, protein.
And this is to help with the insulin spike too, right?
It's going to slow down the absorption.
Okay.
Right, of it. Just because of the effects that protein and fat have on gastric emptying, it's going to slow that down. So do I worry about people over consuming fruit? No, I've never seen someone get fat from over consuming fruit.
And that's the thing you hear in bodybuilding. Don't eat too much. It's like too much fructose is bad.
Yeah.
They don't have anything to substantiate it with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see obese people walking around
Eating an
popping
apple.
berries and apples, right?
Yeah, fried apples maybe.
Yeah. But like, they're not biting into Granny Smith apples and like pounding those.
Yeah,
You can't.
Yeah.
How many Granny Smith apples could you actually eat before you felt full?
Yeah. It's like watermelon too, man. I've tried because we cut up on July 4th, we cut up a giant watermelon, and I was like, dude, I had like 3 slices of watermelon. It was so good, but I just couldn't eat anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's fiber. I mean, you feel full. I could probably eat 2 apples before I was like, all right, I'm kind of full.
Yeah.
Right. So here's the thing about fructose. What happens is it's not so much that fructose gets metabolized in the liver, right? People use that as a reason why, it gets metabolized in the liver, so then it gets stored there, right? Fatty liver. Yes, it is correlated with increase in fatty liver. Saturated fat is much more correlated. Over consuming saturated fat is much more correlated with increase in fatty liver than fructose is. The problem with, the interesting thing about fructose is what happens is when you overconsume it, and this is from animal models, it decreases ATP in the cell. Really? So you're decreasing what our body uses for energy.
Right.
The thought process here is that when humans moved out of Africa to colder climates, they needed to put on body fat. And we lost some machinery to better deal with fructose, and this was beneficial. So now that fructose consumption would deplete cellular ATP, which would cause us to eat more. And you'd put on body fat to be able to survive the winter. So that's a theory, because you see this in bears, right?
Yeah.
What do bears gorge themselves on before they hibernate?
Honey, fructose.
Honey,
right?
fruit, right? Because it's readily available, it's in season, it's right there. They build up their fat stores and then they go hibernate for the winter when food is not plentiful. And it's a theory that this same kind of process happened in humans. There was a mutation, and we lost the ability to deal with fructose in a proper way. So now that, not in a proper way, but deal with fructose in a way that didn't deplete cellular ATP.
Right.
And so that would be beneficial as humans went to colder climates, to now that they're storing more energy for the winter.
That makes sense.
So, it goes along with that thrifty gene hypothesis, right? That human beings are just we're not meant to overconsume calories.
Right.
But if you look at all species tested, if you calorie restrict them to where they don't gain weight, it increases longevity. So being overweight for every single animal, or over body fat, or too much weight, or whatever you want to say, for every single animal we've tested is a bad thing.
Right. Yeah, it comes down to just eating too much. I was doing the math because some dude posted on Facebook just that, a post about fructose. It was a bodybuilding for carnivores form, and so I did the math, and if you know this, back me up. If not, all good. I was like, all right, so you can metabolize a good amount of grams of fructose in the liver in a given day. And I don't know what that number is. Maybe it's 50 grams, maybe it's 100 grams. You know what I mean? But I did the math. If a regular banana has 14 grams of sugar, medium sized, 14 grams. Of that, approximately half is glucose. And then not half, a little less than half is glucose, but then part of it is also sucrose, which is half fructose and glucose essentially, right? So that makes up half of the banana being glucose essentially, and then the other half being fructose. So first off, people who think of fruit is just fructose is another thing that I think people don't understand, is that like kiwis, for example, have, I believe, more glucose than fructose in them. So the way our body would metabolize that, and obviously you still get some of the fructose, but you can definitely replenish muscle glycogen from the fruit. But also you'd have to, like you said, really consume a whole lot, because not the entire portion of the sugar from that fruit is in fact fructose, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And your body can turn fructose into glucose. It just does so in the liver, right? For whatever reason, the liver is the only organ that has the machinery to do that, right? And so again, fat storage is all about energy balance.
Right.
So you're going to store fat if you consume more calories than you burn.
Right.
And that doesn't matter where those calories come from. It could be protein, meat, vegetables, and fruit.
Right.
You overeat meat, vegetables, and fruit eat more than you're burning, you're going to gain body fat.
Right.
So again, if you look at the studies where they substituted fructose with other types of sugars, you saw the same effect.
Right.
Right. So it's not inherently the fructose that's the problem per se in the overall concept of energy balance.
Right.
Now
but the thing is that because you can only store or metabolize so much fructose in the liver or hold so much, and so if your caloric intake is being filled up, sorry to interrupt by the way, but if your caloric intake is being filled up by all the other food that's not fruit, and then you tack fruit on top of that, and then you've met your energy demands, then like you still have these stores of fructose essentially in the liver of energy that's not being used that could be stored as fat as well because you're overeating, right?
Right.
Because it's essentially like, my understanding of why is fructose demonized so much, or why it has been, is like, you can attribute or a lot more glucose and other from like say rice to many other parts of your body other than it having to be metabolized through the liver solely, right?
Yeah, so that's what
like a bottleneck, right?
Right, that's what people would say. Oh, it's a bottleneck, it's metabolized in the liver, and then if you have excess, then it just gets stored. Right. So you still have to play in the concept of energy balance. Now, the fructose and cellular ATP decreasing cellular ATP, that's an interesting theory. As far as I know, that's not something that's been shown in humans, right? But it would make sense going along with everything else we know about ultra processed foods, why it's so much easier to overconsume them.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it makes sense. So I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
We didn't even talk about like the thing we like to do most, exercise.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I know. I've been going back to a push-pull leg split, and I've been liking that. I think I was doing upper lower, and then I was doing full body for a little while, and going back to the push-pull legs has been really fun to do just to switch it up.
Yeah, I don't like push-pull.
Yeah, not enough variety. Too much of the same.
I just didn't like the splits.
Yeah,
it just didn't feel comfortable to me. I used to do full body, and then I've done now I do upper lower.
Nice.
And I'm really liking the upper lower.
Yeah.
So 4 days of weights, 2 days of hit.
Nice.
And then Sundays I just rest. I may do like a walk the dog to the park or something like that.
Are you still last I recall you told me you were fasting on Sundays? Are you still doing longer?
Still doing the 24-hour fast on Sundays.
I think that's a good idea, man. I think if just like cover your bases, plus you feel good without give your body a rest from digesting food for a long time. Yeah.
Well, the main benefit to me is it helps you become okay with being hungry.
Yeah.
Most people will go out of their way to avoid any type of discomfort.
Right.
And they're so used to I'm hungry, I need to eat. Right. I'm like, if you just wait, chug a glass of water,
you won't be hungry.
That feeling will go away.
Yeah. And
it's okay to be hungry. You're not starving. You're not dying.
Yeah. You've got a bunch of fat.
Yeah. Right. So that's the main thing. Number 2 is just to achieve something hard.
Yeah.
Right. It's to help, a way that I work my willpower every week. Is it going to help with longevity? Probably not. Right. Directly. Right. But it's going to help me achieve all my other goals. It also makes it so I don't have to count my calories during the week. So
that one day is enough.
Yeah.
And is it like a true 24? You won't eat till that you finish your meal on Saturday night, and then you won't eat again till Sunday night, basically. Yeah.
Yep. Or sometimes what I'll do, I'm not too dogmatic. If we're going out to brunch, I'll eat Sunday for brunch, and then I won't eat dinner.
Right.
Right.
And you'll eat just won't get to the next day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not going to go to brunch and be like, oh, I can't eat, guys, because I'm fasting. Yeah. Right.
Just sit there and stare at people.
Right. I used to do that stuff. I'm not that guy anymore.
Man, so there's a restaurant in Dallas called Musume, It's like a really nice high-end Japanese place, got great sushi, really good steaks. And one of the owners, Sean, treated us to dinner a few weeks ago, and it was partially for my birthday, but partially he invited us out. And anyways, it was like the 4th day I'd started Carnivore, so I definitely had to turn down some of the apps, but luckily they had steak. But I felt like I was like, what am I doing, man? I was like, I was really set in my convictions, but I don't know if it's something I would do again. I didn't eat cake on my birthday, man. So Carla made, yeah. So it was a small thing, just few family friends on the 18th came over, and they surprised me. We had dinner, and Carla made a cake for everybody, and I had foie gras for my cake.
Well, this is French.
Like, yeah, it's French. But I was like, because I was doing the math, I was like, okay, I'm going to keep this up. I can't quit. I got to get the 30 days in. And then I was like, what's a decadent thing that I can eat? I haven't eaten much organ meat. I don't like it. It's just, I've tried calf liver. I've tried different types of liver. I've tried heart a long time ago. I was like, what can I eat? So I go on Reddit. And my dumb ass doesn't even like think to, because foie gras, it's like literally fatty liver. And like I didn't even think to equate that as being a liver, right? Because I was just like, I grew up on it. It's so decadent, and you don't think of that in the same wheelhouse as like the hard kind of textury liver. Right. I was like, yeah, foie gras. So she literally got foie gras from Central Market, and everybody had a slice of cake, and I literally had it had shaped like the mold. It's like it was out of the mold, and there's a candle sticking in it, and I blew out a cake of foie gras and started eating it with a fork. So obscene, man. I was like, so I might not do that again. I think this is my again. I feel good, and I want to be able to keep feeling the mental clarity of that. So like that's the whole balance of the carbs and not having carbs. Do you feel like do you know first if you're still in ketosis consuming 100 grams of carbs a day? Because some people can be, for a certain part of the day. And two, regardless of whether you are or not, do you feel better when you're in ketosis versus when you're eating higher carbs personally, like mentally?
Yeah, I don't think I am anymore because, back when I was regularly doing longer fasts, I know when I'm in keto, I can feel it. Yeah. Right. My temperature usually runs a little bit higher, right? The energy level's a little bit higher. You kind of feel like your brain, like you can feel the neurons kind of like talking to each other. Like right? Yeah. Yeah. It's a different feeling for when people go into it the first time voluntarily. Yeah. So I don't think I'm in it at the current level of carbs I'm eating. When I do fast, that 24-hour fast, I will hit it about hour 17 or 18. Yeah. Do I feel better in general when I don't overconsume carbohydrates? So the amount of carbs I'm eating now is perfectly fine for me.
And you feel just as good from a mental and from a focus standpoint as you do if you were, say, in ketosis. Because obviously a lot of it has to do with your meal timing and how often you eat. But if you're, say, in the quintessential ketosis field, area, and you're eating 30 to 50 grams, and obviously being more active, you can afford to eat more. Do you feel like from being focused, do you feel like more focused or less focused when you're taking a lower carb versus like much less carb to where you're more often in ketosis?
I feel about the same. Yeah. Focus has never been something that I've struggled with. Yeah. Thank God. How else would I have gone to pharmacy school and med school if I had problems focusing?
That's why I didn't. Yeah. That's why I'm a musician.
So that part to me, like, I know some people feel a dramatic difference. Yeah. I would just feel a little bit sharper. But to me, the difference was like between like 3K and 4K. Yeah. Right. Like if you're trained, you know the difference, but most people aren't. They're not gonna be able to difference in that resolution.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Speaking of media, you've been playing any games recently?
Oh, dude, I have.
Diablo. You've been playing the new Diablo?
Played Diablo.
I haven't played it yet, dude. It looks so good. I just know that if I played that, I would just be done. I'd be in the rabbit hole.
Dude, so this month or last month now, a new Diablo and a new Final Fantasy came out.
Yeah, the new one looks good, man. It looks good. Have you played the new Final Fantasy?
Yeah. It took me back, man. I was like, man, this is like being a kid again.
I know, man.
A new Diablo and a new Final Fantasy in the same month.
Dude. I remember when we played Diablo. So we played it a bunch. Remember when we played Diablo 1, but it was on PS1? Because remember, it was on the PC first.
Yep.
And then it jumped over to PS1. Dude, we spent hours playing Diablo 1.
I know.
Yeah.
I would get home from school, head into because the computer was in the room right next to the front door.
Yeah, the office,
Yeah. And I'd head in there and I would get on Diablo 1. And you remember ICQ?
Yes,
that chat software?
Yes.
You'd be like chatting with these random strangers.
Yeah.
Totally not safe. Because we were like 12-year-old kids.
I know, dude. Way different now.
I
know, dude.
Talking to these random people on the internet, asking them for items and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, we'd be gone, dude. When we were kids, I mean, I remember during the summer, some of the best memories is I'd wake up in the morning in the summer. I'd leave the house. I'd either go to your place, we'd go to Mike Milano's place, we'd go somewhere on the street or go play basketball. And we'd be gone all day. Like, no cell phone.
Right.
Just be like, I'll see you when the sun sets, Mom.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, definitely different. Definitely a different vibe. And I do remember that office, man, when we'd play so much game. We played those the Muds, Archipelago. We played that.
Yep.
I remember. I don't know if you remember this, but we just played that Mud. It's like a text-based game, right? And you had gotten a new weapon, and then it was tell you how strong your weapon hits. And then there's the first time you got an obliterate. I don't know if you remember. You're like, oh, obliterate, and you're like you copied it and you pasted it, and then you enlarged it on the
I remember that.
Text. Oh, dude, that was some of the best gaming experiences was your house, dude. Some of the best games I ever played was thanks to you, like because I got introduced to them, like Chrono Trigger, which I've gone back and played I don't know how many times. I've got it on my phone. I've replayed because they ported it to the iPhone. Diablo, the Final Fantasy 2, all the Final Fantasies, and I stopped playing the Final Fantasy after 10 on the PS2.
Yeah,
and then no, I played 11. 11 was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I haven't played any of the online one, the one online I never played. And then, since then it's been like, besides that, it's been, I mean, all those other games besides, what's the other one? The Skyrim people got into. I never played that. And I was like, because I know that if I play, I'd be sucked into it. I got sucked into World of Warcraft, and I was like, I got sucked in. I was like, dude, I got to stop this. It's hard for me with those types of strategy games. Whereas like the shorter, maybe like first person shooter type, like Call of Duty and stuff like that, you can play shorter games.
Right.
But the ones where you got to create a character and invest time in that character, man.
It'll get you.
Yeah, man, seriously.
You remember Mario RPG?
Yes, dude.
Yeah. And like you had to get like 200 jumps in a row or something like that.
To get the special item. Yeah. You go in that one room.
Yep.
And you'd have to get, it was like, I forget, the safety bid or something like that. And I remember trying to get that. We finally got it.
We did. It took forever. But we finally, I remember just spending hours just trying to get 200 jumps in a row.
200 jumps. Yeah. His super jump. Yeah.
Yep.
And then there was, who was your friend that you grew up with that came to visit?
Oh, Andrew.
Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember playing Resident Evil 1 on the PS1.
Oh, when the dogs jump out the window.
Through the door. Yeah. And they come in through the window.
Yes.
And you try to, or if you try to reopen the front door and you see the dogs faces at you. Yeah.
I'll never forget that moment in game. That's like one of the most iconic moments in gaming history because it scared the pants off everybody.
That was so good. Yeah. Or the first time you walk in and there's the first zombie you come across looking over his shoulder.
Yeah. It's like eating someone on the floor.
That iconic scene. Oh, dude. That scene and that era, that time when we were playing that game, that was like the golden era of the games. That was Final Fantasy VII. We were playing that in your place. We were playing a little like a year before Ocarina of Time. So like those games were like they revolutionized all the games for sure, man. And now the games with like the Unreal Engine and stuff like that are out now, it just looks like they're crazy. The VR games that are supposedly coming out are going to be crazy, but I haven't invested my time in that yet.
Yeah. It's tough, man.
Especially you. How do you find time to do it, man?
My wife is very generous.
Nice, good for you.
So she knows that like that's my outlet.
Yeah.
Right. My mom games. I've been gaming since before I can remember.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of hobbies. My hobbies are reading clinical studies and working out and gaming.
Yeah. That's perfect.
Like, if you think about it, the person does all three of those. You're like, that doesn't seem like an activity one person would do.
No, not at all. Yeah. I work out and then I study. Those are two things. And then I play video games and I work out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, Chris Bumstead, he's like a big gamer. He's big into Call of Duty, and he's 4-time Mr. Olympia now, something like that. 4 or 5 times, something like that.
Lane Norton plays Mass Effect.
Yeah. Totally. A lot of gamers out there. You can thank YouTube too for that, and Twitch to getting a lot of players into the games and stuff like that, for sure.
Right.
So, currently you've got your practice. Are you still, are you practicing right now? I know you're still taking patients
through Nimbus.
And so tell me about, because I looked up Nimbus, you mentioned it to me. You're one of the founders of Nimbus, and is it specifically tell me about it. I believe it's targeted towards men's health specifically. Can you tell me a little bit about Nimbus?
Yeah. So we do men's and women's health, mostly hormone replacement, right? We also have a hair restoration product. Not that you need that. You've always had
got that fabulous. Hey, it's that finasteride, man.
Fabulous hair. He's always known for his hair. Back in the day, that's what Pierre was known for.
I think I just love his same haircut. Yeah. It hasn't changed.
Yeah. So we do the hair restoration, which we do a genetic test, figure out based on your genes what is the best choice for you. We do that for men and women, and then we have a semaglutide weight loss product as well. So those are the three that we've built out. We'll be adding more. Like, I'm working on a health club, so it's a Discord server to where people can come and learn, and a lot of stuff that we talked about today, we'll talk about. Plus, they'll get access to the 1,000 clinical studies I have in my library.
Is this through Nimbus as well, or
this will be through Nimbus? Yeah.
So it's a subscription service.
Yep. Yeah, all of our products are subscription services.
And then based on the product you choose, that'll affect your monthly cost for it. That's great. That's really cool.
Yep.
And how many guys are involved in that project now? Because it's been going on for.
We are up to 8. I think we're about to hire on number 9 soon. So doing well. Hopefully we can raise a seed round in the next 6 or 7 months.
Nice.
And then grow from there. But we're already gotten 2 of our products, the hair line and the weight loss line, are now available in all 50 states.
That's great.
Yep.
And so you were telling, for the hair loss one, there was you're using topical finasteride. Is that, would you say, what do you think the most effective hair loss treatment is? Is it I guess it's combination, I'm assuming. Right. Minoxidil, topical finasteride, and then what about ingestible finasteride?
Yeah, so if you look at it from a non-genetic perspective, minoxidil probably has the most data because it's been around the longest, right? It was the first one. Yeah. And then finasteride. But if you also look at the data, only about 40% of people respond to it, right? So what we do is, instead of 2 things, we have 16 different things that I can use. Wow. And then we combine 4 of them together in a solution. The reason we like that is because you avoid the systemic side effects.
Yeah, that's the reason. And I asked this, and we were talking about this, because I've been taking finasteride for close to 10 years, and I'm taking a 0.5 milligram, so I'm taking half this subscribed dose. Right. But I mean, if you're trying to target the top of your head, why would you just have it systemically in your body when you could just target it in your head, which is right. And how are as far as the efficacy, because it's new, this idea of using topical finasteride is pretty new. As far as the efficacy of just the topical finasteride, has there been more headway since? I think I researched it like 6 months ago or so. How's the research on that come? Yeah,
I mean, this stuff is not like the same level that you'd see like a big blockbuster drug, as far as the amount of research, the number of patients, the overall quality. Right. But there is evidence that topical finasteride is as efficacious as oral finasteride. So that lends a feather in our cap. What we've seen is some pretty good results with our clients. And that's probably because, we're targeting it specifically to pathways that we know the medications are going to work.
Right.
So, and a lot of the things, each ingredient that we use, there's at least one clinical trial showing efficacy in humans compared to placebo.
Right.
So, okay, I have some data to back it up. I'm using a cellular molecular approach,
Right.
and I'm getting good results.
Right. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the results would just speak for themselves. So if their hair is growing back, then it's working. And again, trying to, like you said, I think the sweet spot is combining these things to find the right target for that one person. For the right. Yeah. Because everybody, like you said, people who don't respond to finasteride. Now, what about people who don't respond to oral finasteride? Would they also likely not respond to topical finasteride? Likely not, right.
Because, so finasteride works by blocking one of the two, there's actually three enzymes that convert testosterone to DHT. We're only really concerned with two of them. Mm-hmm. If the major conversion to DHT is the other enzyme, finasteride is not going to work for you. It's not going to work that well.
I gotcha.
So in that case, we can use dutasteride, which is off-label, meaning it's not FDA approved for that indication.
Right.
But as a physician, I can use any FDA approved drug for anything that I want to, as long as I have some data backing it up. Right. Like I couldn't give you a cancer drug to regrow your hair. Right. That would be insane. Yeah. Right. But as long as there's some evidence of clinical studies done using a drug that was developed for another indication, I can use it for another indication. And about 30% of all drugs are used off label. Yeah. Just because, a pharmaceutical company may not want to go through the hassle of getting their product approved for a different indication. Right. Because that's a whole nother submission you have to do.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. And and is Nimbus what's taking up the majority of your time now? Is this your main focus now?
Nimbus, my other startup, it's in the pharmacy space. We created a platform for direct prescriptive authority for pharmacists.
Oh, great.
So I'm the medical director. I developed all the protocols. I'm also our head analyst and advisor. So that is doing well. So that's pretty much what I do in the afternoons. In the mornings, I have a full-time job doing revenue cycle management. It's basically consulting where you look at charts and make sure that the charts are accurate and they're billing appropriately.
Is this through a hospital or through
It's through a third-party company.
Oh, third party. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. So it's hire doctors to make sure cross the T's, dot your I's, make sure everything's...
Yep.
Nice. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, it is. It helps the hospitals get paid accurately. Yeah, which is important because you could do a procedure. Let's say you do a heart transplant, and this actually happened, and the coder doesn't code that you did a heart transplant. Yeah, the insurance pays you, and they're like, "Oh, well, you coded it wrong. We're not paying you the rest of that money."
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Don't get. Hold on, I'm gonna pause real quick. I'm gonna just check and make sure. I'm gonna finish. I'm gonna keep going with my thought. Yeah, man. Don't get me started on insurance companies, man. I have this. I feel like it's so strange when you go to a hospital and then you go in there, whatever your ailment is, whatever your issue is, you go in there and then they give you Tylenol, and then you go back and you look on your bill later and you see the itemized, amounts, and the fact that Tylenol is at the rate that it is just crazy to me. And there's truly no competition driving the market. And what's great, I mean, don't get me wrong, America is one of the leaders in development of, of drugs, but what's crazy when you think about that, the fact that America is one of the most chronically diseased country, right? It's the most chronically diseased country, and we can talk about whether or not, the reason why 600,000 plus people died from COVID, was it because of the fact that of how we managed the spread versus the fact that America is the most chronically diseased country in the world, right? And the comorbidities for COVID were huge, right? 60% or so people had comorbidities, right? But the fact that we have such medical advances in this country, but yet there is no true market driving the competition is crazy to me. When insurance companies say, oh, this is the cost of this good. And you're basically negotiating back and forth between the, the provider and the doctor and the insurance company saying, no, this is how much this costs. No, I'll give you this. It's like literally bartering for what the cost of something should be and then negotiating, coming to terms with it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It seems kind of crazy, right?
It is.
So do you think that in a true market economy, so I draw a parallel to LASIK surgery. So LASIK, from my understanding now, has always been not covered with insurance because it's an elective surgery. The price of it has, in the last 10 years, gone down significantly. And you could attribute that a lot to advances in technology due to competition, right? And I don't, again, we're still making strides in this market, but how much of that do you think affects competition? And do you think a free market is enough to drive the price of medicine so that we could do away with insurance companies?
No, I don't think we could do away with insurance companies. I think we need to go back to what insurance companies actually are. So most people look at insurance as a right. I'm like, insurance is not a right. You don't look at car insurance like it's a right.
Right.
It's a risk pool, right? The whole purpose of insurance is you band together a group of people so that no one person assumes all the risk.
Right.
Right? So you pay a little bit of money every month. Everybody does. There's a set amount of car accidents.
Right.
So when you have a car accident, you don't pay the full amount of your accident. You draw on the money that everybody has paid into the pool.
True.
Right?
Right.
That's insurance.
Right.
Most Americans forget that.
Right.
So they think, well, I'm paying this money. I deserve all of these services.
Right.
No, you paid your premium. Now you paid your copay, your deductible, whatever. Now the rest of that bill has to be paid for by everybody else.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's what insurance is. And so we need to go back to where insurance covers what it's supposed to cover, catastrophic events.
Right.
Right? But that's not what's killing most Americans. It's slow death by chronic disease. I think price transparency is the first step in fixing this because we still don't have that.
Right. But there's no way to drive the price. Like you can't, like Japan has a price, a book with a list of prices for services. But again, the question is what drives that? I think it's a better alternative because at least you say, okay, this syringe costs X dollars. So if we want to make a profit, we will charge this much of a margin above this. And then you compile if this doctor's time is worth this amount.
Right.
So you have, these things that, and I think that's the best way to kind of calculate it. But it seems like in an ideal world, wouldn't a truly competitive market, let's just say there were no insurance companies, because you said you think that they're needed. Do you think that there'd be enough of competition driving to do away? I guess catastrophic injuries are just too expensive to deal with because they're so specialized.
Right.
Right.
And then the level of care that someone may need for it.
Right. You need like multiple human beings looking after you for
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's people don't realize how many people are involved when you go to the hospital, how much human capital is needed to take care of you while you're there.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
Right. You're talking nurses, culinary, cleaning staff, doctors, pharmacists, right? Technicians for radiology. So your one visit may touch 100 different people.
Yeah.
To take care of you in some capacity while you were there.
Right.
People need salaries.
Right.
So most of the expenses of a hospital are salaries, right? Now we're not talking about pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. We're just talking about, what you pay to the hospital.
That's another can of worms right there.
That's another can of worms. But it's not transparent. The same procedure can cost vastly different prices at hospitals that are right across the street from each other.
Right.
Now, do you think there's any difference in compensation for staff for hospitals that are right across the street from each other?
There can't be.
No, there's probably not. Probably minor.
Yeah.
Is there any difference in the cost of goods? IV bag of saline in hospital A probably costs about the same as a bag of saline in hospital B.
True. Yeah.
Same thing for drugs, right? So, the like you said earlier, it is a game. So the hospital submits a bill to insurance. Insurance says, well, we're not going to pay that. Hospital submits another bill. We're not going to pay. And then it's just like back and forth.
Yeah.
the shell negotiating game, and finally a price is settled upon, and that's what gets paid. I think if people knew up front, okay, this is how much we're going to charge your insurance company. If you needed, and it's hard to do with healthcare because if it's truly emergency, you need to go to the first place that's you possibly can. Right.
Yeah.
But if it's a non-emergency, if price transparency was there, people would be able to price shop, and that would drive down prices.
Right.
Because they, it's like Best Buy, right?
Yeah.
If you see a TV at Best Buy is $1,000 and that same TV at some other place is $500.
Yeah.
You're going to go and buy the $500 TV. So are most people.
Right.
Best Buy is going to see that and they're like, we have to drop the price of this TV.
That'd be pretty cool, right? If you had circulars for different services.
Right.
Come to this hospital where the Band-Aid costs 25 cents or, whatever, or surgery costs X amount of dollars. Yeah.
But every other industry does that.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
But yeah, how would you create that? But again, that price transparency you're talking about is market driven, right?
Yeah, it should be,
because it has to be. If you think about it in its simplest form, like you said, the doctor, obviously there's lots of people involved, but the doctor gets paid X amount, so they need to get paid. So you're factoring the cost of all these people that are involved to pay their salaries, plus the goods that whatever you need for rehabilitation or for care. And then you factor that in. I mean, it's probably a lot harder than I'm making it out to be, because there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of factors involved. But that price transparency would help at least make it so that people could shop around for different goods.
At the end of the day, it's still a business. There's an income statement.
Yeah.
If you perform X procedure at your hospital, realistically what your costs are.
Right.
Now, it can get kind of hectic if there's complications, right? Because that might incur extra cost or whatever.
Yeah.
But you'd also know the rate of complications.
Right.
Every hospital tracks, they know the rate of complications of certain individuals in the hospital.
Yeah.
So, once you start thinking about this from a business perspective, you can pretty accurately forecast, okay, if I do, let's say 100 of these procedures a month, this is how much it's going to cost me. This is, whatever profit margin you want to make, which most of these hospitals are nonprofits, so that shouldn't be an issue anyway.
Yeah.
Right. That's just how much I'm going to charge for these services.
Yeah.
Another big issue is, I think it's 5% of people use, I think it's like 85 or 90% of the healthcare resources.
Probably due to chronic, I'm guessing chronic
end stage of chronic conditions.
Yeah.
So a lot of other countries, like when you get to a certain level, they're like, this is terminal, right? Care is futile. I can prolong your life, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, a couple months, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're ultimately going to pass from this condition. There's nothing we can do. We will spend whatever it takes to keep people alive in that situation, even though in most cases it's futile. So we spend a lot more on end of life care than other comparable, OECD, other economically comparable countries. So there's a lot of things that are wrong in the system. Even like the laws say the hospitals need to post their prices. A lot of them still don't. On their website.
On their website. Okay.
Yeah. Now, what would be great is an AI bot that scours the web, looks at all these prices, and then puts it into an app, right?
Yeah.
And you could search for it. Let's say it's a non-emergent situation, like you didn't have a heart attack or something like that. You can choose which hospital you go to near you.
Right.
You can be like, okay, which hospital near me has the most cost-effective appendectomy? I think I'm having appendicitis.
Right.
Plug it in and be like, okay, this hospital charges this for these procedures. This hospital charges that. This is their rate of complications. This is their rate of complications, right? So all of that data is out there. It's just putting in a format that consumers can choose from and pick from.
I think that's your next thing. That's your next project. Line it up.
I know some people are working on this, actually.
That's awesome. Look,
yeah.
I mean, man, in a future where AI can make lives easier for the people and not enslave us like they did in Terminator 2.
Right.
You know, that'd be better. That'd be a better future.
Yeah. Well, that's why I thank my Alexa and my Google Home. So when the machines
love you,
take
Alexa.
over, yeah. Like, you know what? He treated me right. He's a good guy. Spare his family.
Sometimes I'm on ChatGPT, and sometimes I'm getting a little bit. I feel like I'm getting rude with my responses because it's not giving me the output I'm wanting, and so I'll get a little short with it, and then I'll rethink what I'm typing. Be like, that's like, I ask for some ideas and be like, that's a bad idea. Give me more. Like, maybe I should step away from that because once it becomes self-aware, that ChatGPT robot will come busting out my head.
It's gonna remember everything.
Yeah, I hate you.
Yeah, is this a bad idea now?
Yeah, I think the draw between like it's a double-edged sword. The draw between socialized medicine and privatized medicine. I don't know if there's a healthy a medium between the two. I think there's pros and cons to both. I think because in America, even like you said, even if you don't have insurance, if you have like an acute disease, you're going to get treated at a hospital. Like if you have a broken leg or something like that, you're not going to be turned down for insurance. That's the craziest thing that I hear, like, on social media that I've heard where people like get turned down for a broken leg or a gunshot wound. That like would never happen, right?
Right. Yeah, they're not going to roll you to the ER and be like, oh, you got shot, you don't have insurance.
Yeah. But I think that, again, so you throw in the pharmaceuticals that you were talking about earlier, you throw that in because I think a big part of the, I don't want to put blame on them because at the end of the day, what you put in your own face and what you eat has a direct effect on your health. But the pharmaceutical companies are very happy making money off diabetes medicine, right? They're very happy making money off of that. And so you think about the amount of money that's spent on that type of care, chronic illness, and how much the burden would come off of people if like the obesity rate went from whatever it is now, 40, 45, something high, astronomically high, close to half, down to what it was, close to 0% like it was 50 years ago, it would drastically unburden the people that, that were providing it and probably lower the cost of things in general. But at the same time, the pharmaceutical companies aren't profiting from that, right? Keeping people sick is the way to make money.
So I've kind of changed my opinion on this a little bit. To have pharmaceutical companies done some shady stuff, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Like Vioxx, remember there's lawsuit with Vioxx,
Purdue Pharma, right, with the opioids. Yeah, they've done some horrible stuff.
Yeah.
There's also people who are alive today because of innovations in pharmacology. Yeah. Right. Penicillin, right?
But those are the doctors, right? I think doctors who spend the time studying for so long, their incentives and drives are different than a businessman whose sole purpose is to make money for a company or a member. I don't know. I guess it comes down to the person, right? The person who's involved in power and has a position of power.
Yeah, it's so. Are there pharmaceutical companies and researchers out there in pharmaceutical companies who generally want good for the public? Yes, I know them. Yeah. Right? Are there a-holes who are just out to make a quick buck? Absolutely. I know them too. Right. Right? That's any profession. Yeah. Anywhere, right? There's going to be good people. There's going to be bad people.
Right. But this one can affect the livelihood of so many.
It can. And so when they do bad, shady stuff, they need to be punished and held to the fullest content.
But they're not.
Of the law that we possibly can.
They're coming out. They make 10 billion and then they have to pay 5 billion, so they come out net 5 billion. You know.
Yeah, some of the fines are just like they're stupid. I mean, it's a slap on the wrist, right? They have a powerful lobby. I don't think they should be able to lobby
or advertise. That regard.
They definitely should not be able to advertise direct to consumer. Other countries look at us like we're dumb. Yeah. Us in New Zealand are the only countries where that's legal. Right. To directly advertise drugs to a population. Yeah. Right. Now, going back to what I was going to say, the rise of the power in the pharmaceutical industry came from a need because Americans were getting sicker progressively. So they saw an opportunity to make money. The answer to all of this, it doesn't matter what we do, what type of medicine, privatized, socialize, whatever, if people don't have personal responsibility. You know, what I always tell people is I'm trying to make myself very hard to kill. Right? So like, and another thing, having worked in the hospital for so long, I have the advantage of hindsight. I see people dying.
Yeah.
And I get to talk to them when they're dying and what they regret. And a lot of them say they wish they had done things differently if they had the chance to. Like they would have taken better care of themselves if they had the chance to. And, you know, I think about it all the time. Like, could I get cancer? Absolutely. You could do everything right and bad stuff still happens.
You kill walking your doggy, just like Al Pacino says in Heat.
Or, you know, I could get cancer. It could still happen.
Yeah.
But if I get cancer and I did everything I could to prevent it and everything I could to fight it, I can live with that.
Yeah.
Right? There's no regret because
putting up a good fight. You did everything
I did everything that I possibly could.
That's a great mindset to have.
Right. What more could I have done? You know, sometimes you get a bad hand in life.
Yeah.
But, you know, do I know people who are very healthy who got cancer? Yes. Most of them are still walking around.
Yeah.
And they'll say that and be like, yeah, but what would have happened if you had gotten cancer and you weren't healthy?
Right.
What would have happened if you got COVID and you weren't healthy?
Yeah.
Right. We don't think about that.
Yeah.
So again, no matter who's president, who's in office, whatever, you can't put your fate in somebody else's hands.
Amen. For sure. I totally agree with that. I think it's one of those things that as you get older, and this is speaking personally, I would just assume as you get older and you you either get married, you have a family, or you just become more independent, you start to realize that you're like, only I can do this for myself. Mm-hmm. And that comes in every facet of life. You know what I mean? Like, you know, if there's times where I dread, you know, not wanting to work, first of all, I think perspective and having appreciation for what you have is really important, because I think a lot of negative mindset comes from not being appreciative of the things that you do have. But anything that is causing you significant pain, whether it's like mental, or physical, do whatever you can do, and you're not doing everything you can do in your power to change that, you're selling yourself short.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if it comes back and hurts you further, then like you said, it comes back on you. It falls back on you.
Right.
But like you said, you need to have that mindset, because otherwise you're shifting blame. You're shifting the blame to somebody else. Oh, the doctors didn't diagnose me properly, or, you know, and again, that's a different thing. But I think that even understanding the limitations of everybody and knowing yourself, because if you know yourself very well, that's not to say you're going to know better than a doctor, but you're going to know yourself a lot better than a doctor's going to know you, unless they've known you for as long as you've known you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know, I think, you know, that's a great mindset to have. I completely agree with you, man.
Yep. Yeah, you got to take care of your responsibilities. You got to take care of yourself. You know, I hear all the time about politics and, you know, who's in office and things like that.
Yeah.
My life in the last 20 years has not been that different. Like, there's subtle things, you know, maybe with insurance, maybe with taxes, whatever. Right. But when I handle what I need to handle and I need to take care of and steer my family in the right direction, it doesn't matter what happens in office. Yeah. Right.
You know, it's true. We're so preoccupied, you know, when it comes to certain things like, you know, mandates and restrictions, that's where things get pretty serious, because that can really change. Like that, what happened with COVID, that was a big life changer for everybody. Right. And so, you know, we could have been in a field, like we could have been in the entertainment industry, or we could have been in the hotel industry, and it would have sucked, you know what I mean? But like you said, you got to roll with the punches and go with the flow. But in cases like that, where the government is mandating or controlling what you can or cannot trade, that's where it gets a little hairy, right? It's like that. Now you're affecting my livelihood. Now it's getting a little. Now this isn't fun. You know what I mean? Right. The fact that, you know, if you were a bar, you were closed. But if you were a bar that happened to sell food, you're good. Open, You know what I mean? That's just like them, things like that just, and people lost their homes, lost their livelihood over that. So I'm 100% with you. I guess it's more of a libertarian mindset of like, you know, let me do me, let me do my thing. Don't encroach on the things that I'm doing unless they're bringing physical harm upon others, you know, like, dealing drugs to kids. You know what I mean?
Right.
And excuse me, life will be good. You know, like.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
I'm the same way. I mean, I don't care what you do as long as you don't hurt the people around you or hurt yourself.
Yeah, I do want a sane and mentally fit leader to be our president, though.
Yeah,
that's what I want. And right now, if it's either Biden or Trump, it's neither.
Right.
Like, in my mindset, it doesn't matter which one of the two. So
they're both on like opposite extremes,
man.
right?
Like, why can't we just have a normal person?
Right.
And there's a few. There's that Republican candidate Vivek something or other. I don't know if you've followed him. Vivek, Vivek. He's a Republican candidate. Really smart guy. Had his own, I think, tech company, or it was a medical services company, I believe. He's a very smart guy. He seems a little politically, like he's smiling when he talks. I'm like, dude, stop that. Just be real. Stop being full of shit. Just give your genuine self to that person. When someone's asking you a question and you're doing these fake smiles to them.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's some. He's just a very smart guy. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is on the running Democrat, which is crazy, right? Which is, I think, might do really good things for both parties, because I think people like that and him run. I love the fact that he's running Democrat and not Republican, because that might steer the left more towards center.
Right.
And then DeSantis, although being a smart guy, he may be too unliked by the left to even have people come towards him. So I'm thinking somebody who's more of an outlier on the right, like I say Vivek, but to help bring people back towards this middle sane area where, like, when I walk out, like, you see social media and you see all this hate and all this shit talking and stuff. But when I go out on the street, and when I'm interacting with people, it's not like that.
No.
It's like, if there's one thing, and it's not been politics, that's caused people to be like more socially closed and like not making eye contact. I noticed that today when I went to the grocery store, for example. When I went to Costco today, people like are going about their business. And I don't know if this has always been the case, but I've never been to one to, like, if I say excuse me to somebody and I move my cart, I'm not going to make eye contact or acknowledge that a human is there. Is lockdowns. Like, people lost social cues, like being in lockdown. They forgot how to converse with somebody, look somebody in the eyes and talk to them. And and I think for me as well, and the reason why I'm doing this is to be able to talk to somebody face to face and have like a true good conversation just about whatever the hell we want, but like at least be able to like connect, because like how often do we do that? You know, like how often? I mean, even my wife or Brittany, Carla, for me, like we have. A lot of it's in the monotony and of the daily tasks of the day, and then you unwind, you talk about what you did, but like where you have a true meaningful conversations, those don't happen often. Maybe if you're at dinner with friends, or but how often do those happen? So anytime you can to like help replicate those kinds of parts in your life where you're truly going to remember, or truly have an experience that's going to mean something. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's I think a good thing to have. Man, I droned on there with that thought. You're just like, dude, what are you talking about, man?
I get you though. I mean, me and my wife, we talk about books we read all the time. Yeah. She'll find articles and she'll ask like, what do I think about these articles? And we have these really deep conversations. But one of the reasons we connected was I have a friend she's genius level intellect, and whenever I would get with him, she would just sit there and watch, because we'd be talking about all kinds of stuff at really high levels. A lot of it in science and health, and she would just sit there and take it in, and then she would go on her own and research stuff so she could bring back to the conversations.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
she's good. She's competitive in that nature, and not in a bad way. She's like, she wants to be part of the, like when we were playing cornhole. She's like she wants to be involved in that way, which is really cool, because it's like, as opposed to people who would be standoffish because they're afraid of something they don't know or aren't familiar with, which is great.
No, she just goes. I mean, she's super competitive.
Yeah.
She had 3 brothers.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That explains it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, hell, man, you got when are you heading back home?
Saturday.
Nice.
So we have our board meeting tomorrow, and then I have a board dinner. And then I'm going to try and go meet up. My college roommate lives here.
Oh, nice.
I don't think you've ever met him. David, Asian guy. Maybe one of the Texas OUs.
Yeah, or maybe did he come to any of our shows back in the day? I don't know, because you were at a few of our shows. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Austin, maybe? Yeah.
I think he was at the one on 6th Street for a South by Southwest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah, he lives here. So I'm going to go meet up with him and his wife on Friday night.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, dude, this has been a great convo. Dude, we're coming up on 3 hours.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Well, let's wrap it, dude. Good stuff, man. Oh. Yeah, man. I love you, brother. Love you too, man. Good stuff. All right.